I should have never taken that job. Yeah, I needed the money. Bad. Rent was overdue, fridge was empty, and my last job ghosted me on my final paycheck. So when this guy in a dusty red pickup offered me $500 cash for a one-night cleanup shift at the old Creek Slaughterhouse, I didn't even think twice. He handed me a key, said just clean the place up, wipe surfaces, bag trash, haul out any scrap. That was it. Easy money, I thought. But the second I pulled up to that building, I knew I screwed up. It sat out past the edge of town, way past the highway and even the service roads. Just trees and dirt for miles, until suddenly, bam, there it was. Big metal box, rusted from roof to ground. The words Cold Creek Meats were still painted on the front, barely visible behind streaks of dried rain and grime. The chain-link fence was busted open. No lock, just twisted wire and a warning sign half hanging off a nail. Everything smelled like copper and wet rot. I stood there in the parking lot for a while, just staring. The building looked wrong. Not haunted wrong, not creepy old house wrong, just off, like something that used to be alive and got hollowed out. But money talks, and I was broke. So I grabbed my gear, flashlight, gloves, trash bags, basic cleaner stuff, and stepped inside. The door moaned like it hadn't been opened in years, and instantly the temperature dropped. No joke. It was warm outside, but in there, freezing. I could see my breath puffing out in front of me. Inside was pitch black. My flashlight barely cut through it. The walls were all metal, stained brown-red in long smears like rust. But it wasn't rust. You could smell the meat in it. Old, rotten, sour. The kind of smell that sinks into your clothes and stays there. There were rooms branching off everywhere, processing stations, hanging rooms, packaging lines. Most of the machines were huge, steel, and dead quiet. Some looked like they hadn't been used in decades. Dust inches thick, but not all of them. Some were clean, shiny, like they'd been used recently. That was red flag number 1. Still, I told myself, just clean, don't think, don't wander, in, out, done. So I picked a corner and started working. Every few minutes I'd stop and just listen. You ever hear silence that's too quiet? Like your ears are waiting for a sound, and when they don't get it, they start making stuff up? That's what it felt like. I kept thinking I heard footsteps behind me, metal creaking, something brushing past my shoulder, but every time I turned around there was nothing. Until I passed the main processing line. And I swear to God, the machines turned on by themselves. I didn't even touch anything. 1 second, total silence. The next, whack! The conveyor belt jumped to life. The big rotary saw started spinning, slicing air like it was going through bone. I froze, stared at it for a full minute. Then the belt moved, not fast, just a slow crawl, like it was waiting for something to go on it. I backed away and slammed the breaker box shut. Machine stopped. Silence returned. I should have left right then. I really should have, but I didn't because I saw the security camera in the corner twitch, like it just turned to face me. And I got this awful feeling I was being watched. After that machine powered on by itself, I couldn't shake it. Every step I took felt like something was following. Not steps, just this pressure. Like the air behind me was tighter, heavier. It was in my neck, in my spine, in my teeth. And that damn camera, it twitched again, slowly. Just a small motorized movement, like it was tracking me. There wasn't even power in the building. Not supposed to be, anyway. I told myself it was momentum, dust, a breeze, lies, anything to keep moving. I turned off the main corridor and found the meat locker. Big walk-in freezer, thick metal door, one of those industrial ones with a big locking wheel. It was cracked open. Not much, just an inch. And it was cold. The cold in that locker didn't feel like normal cold. It felt like winter trapped inside steel. I felt it pouring out like a presence, like it had claws. I shouldn't have gone in. But there were trash bags stacked just inside, rotted, burst, reeking. I couldn't leave them. I stepped in and the door shut behind me. Hard. I spun around, yanked at the handle, locked. From the outside, it was pitch black. My flashlight caught streaks of frozen blood on the walls, hooks overhead. The floor was sticky with old grease and something else. Then I saw them. Boot prints. Fresh, in the frost, walking across the room, away from me, like someone had just left or was still in there. I froze, couldn't even breathe. My light hit the far wall and there was this hole, a perfect square cut in the metal, maybe 3 feet high, just big enough to crawl through. No idea why I did it, maybe panic, maybe instinct, but I dropped to my knees and crawled in. It was a tight, nasty crawl space, air thick with ammonia and decay. Every few feet I passed something carved into the steel with a knife or nail, scribbled words like "Silence is mercy" and "The pigs don't scream here." The tunnel went for maybe 20 feet. Then it dropped down into a smaller room, another freezer, but this one looked used. Fresh plastic tarps, buckets, a drain in the center. I didn't move. I just stood there in the beam of my flashlight, listening to the drip, drip, drip of something behind the tarp. Could have been condensation, could have been blood. Honestly, I didn't want to know. But my eyes landed on the table in the corner. Metal, covered in tools. I'm not talking knives, I mean saws, clamps, a bone splitter. This wasn't cleanup. This was a kill room, and the scariest part? It was spotless. Someone had used it recently and cleaned it afterward. That's when I knew this place wasn't abandoned. Someone was still working here. I didn't move for maybe a minute, just stood there with my flashlight shaking in my hand, staring at that table of tools. My lungs barely worked. My legs felt like rebar. This room was wrong. Too clean. Too cold. Too ready. There was a smear on the floor leading to the drain. Something had been dragged. Not long ago either. The smear still glistened like whatever it was hadn't dried yet. That's when I heard it. The footsteps. Muffled at first. Distant. Like heavy boots on concrete. They were coming from the tunnel I just crawled through. I cut the light. Total darkness swallowed me. I dropped behind one of the metal prep tables and held my breath. My heart was punching so hard I swore it would echo. The sound of boots grew louder, slower, steady. 1, 2, 1, 2. Then silence. I don't know how long I stayed crouched. A minute, 2? The air was thick. Every breath felt like it dragged knives down my throat. I finally risked turning my light on again, but low, real low. The tunnel was empty. No one was there. But something had changed. On the wall by the exit door, one I hadn't seen before, was a message, fresh, written in blood. Too loud. I didn't hear anyone write it. I didn't smell blood. It was just there now. I didn't even think. I grabbed my bag, bolted across the room, and shoved through the exit door into a hallway I didn't recognize. It wasn't metal anymore. It was concrete, raw and unfinished, like a basement. Pipes overhead. The lights were working here, but they were dim and flickering, that sickly green kind of glow you only see in hospitals or abandoned malls. And then I heard the sound. A wet dragging, something being pulled across the floor. I rounded the corner fast, almost slipped in a puddle of thick and black. Couldn't tell what it was, didn't care. That's when I saw it, a body bag, half unzipped, empty. The dragging stopped, right behind me. I turned, fast. No one there. Only the open corridor and a trail that thick black sludge smeared down the center. Something was hunting me. I wasn't supposed to be here. Not just because it was trespassing. Not just because it was illegal. I'd seen something. And now, whatever ran Cold Creek, it wasn't going to let me leave. I sprinted down that hallway. The flickering lights above me buzzed like angry bees. I didn't care what direction I was running. I just needed distance. But the farther I went, the more it felt like I wasn't going anywhere. Every hallway looked the same. Same sludge trails, same busted floor tiles, same smeared boot prints. That's when I hit a dead end. Concrete wall. Nothing on it but a metal door. Rusted, no handle. spray painted in red, 7B. I didn't think, I just pushed it open and stepped into something that should not exist. It looked like a waiting room. I swear to God, in the middle of all this decay and industrial rot, there it was. Fluorescent lighting, chairs, a cracked vending machine full of expired snacks, mold on the ceiling tiles, but the walls were padded, like a psych ward. I took one step in and the door slammed behind me, no handle on this side either. I wasn't alone. Across the room was a mirror, at least I thought it was a mirror, until it blinked. My reflection wasn't copying me. It was standing there staring back, but it didn't move when I did. I stepped left. It didn't. I raised my hand. Nothing. Then it smiled. I dropped my flashlight. Not on purpose, my hands just stopped working. It rolled across the floor and lit up something in the corner. A figure, hunched over, wearing a butcher's apron stained with dark, crusty patches, hands resting on its knees, motionless, like it had been waiting. I couldn't breathe. Then the intercom crackled to life. One of those dusty black boxes high on the wall. Now serving number 7, the hunched figure stood up. It didn't speak, just breathed. Wet, ragged breathing that filled the room. I kicked the flashlight toward the vending machine, trying to distract it, and booked it for the nearest vent, just a low, square grate near the wall. I ripped it open, crawled inside, and didn't look back. As I squeezed through, something brushed my foot. I swear to you, it whispered my name. The vent was tight. Metal scraped my shoulders, and the air was so thick I could taste rust. Every few feet I had to stop and breathe, quiet, careful, because I wasn't alone in there. Every time I paused, I heard it, shuffling, not behind me, around me, like something crawling in the walls beside the vent, matching my pace, breathing when I breathed. At one point I stopped, held my breath completely. The noise kept going, and then, just barely, I heard it whisper, "You smell like fear." I didn't scream, I just kept crawling. Eventually the vent opened up into another room. Storage, maybe? But this one looked untouched. No mold, no damage. It almost looked staged. Shelves full of meat hooks, brand new. Sealed plastic sheets stacked against the wall. A chair in the center of the room with thick leather straps and a drain underneath. That drain was the only dirty thing in there. Stained dark red. I didn't move toward the chair. My body just knew better. I stayed near the edge of the room and checked for exits. That's when I saw the hole in the wall. A fist-sized opening, way down low. I leaned down and listened. I don't know why. From inside I heard whimpering, like a kid, crying, whispering over and over, "Let me out, let me out, let me out." Then a second voice joined it. Not a kid, older, smiling. "Let him in." I backed up so fast I knocked over a shelf. The clang echoed so loud it felt like the whole factory heard it. The walls vibrated, and that's when they came out. The ones in the walls. Hands, dozens of them, pale, dirty, reaching out from cracks and seams in the concrete, not punching through. Sliding through. Quiet, deliberate, all fingers, no faces, no bodies, just hands. They didn't grab me, they just pointed, all of them, toward the chair. I wasn't going to play whatever sick game this was. I made for the opposite door and slammed it open, ran full speed into another hallway. No clue where I was now, but it was getting warmer. And the deeper I went, the more I realized I was heading toward the boiler room. I didn't realize how bad it was until the air started burning my throat. The hallway walls were sweating. Pipes groaned under the surface. The whole place smelled like copper, steam, and burnt meat. And then I saw the sign. Boiler access, authorized personnel only. The door was bent off its hinges, like something had kicked its way out. Inside was a different world. It wasn't just a room. It was a furnace cathedral. Giant metal boilers lined the walls like tombs. Chains dangled from the ceiling. Steam hissed from every direction. A narrow walkway led across the room, above a pit glowing deep orange, like the floor was cooking from underneath. I stepped onto the metal grate walkway. It creaked loud enough to wake the dead. About halfway across, I heard something below me, a sound I'll never forget, claws on steel. Slow, scraping, metallic. I looked down through the grate and saw it, something crawling up. It wasn't human, it wasn't animal, just a blackened shape, melted skin fused with steel, a face that looked like it had been burned off, stitched back on, then set on fire again. It had 2 glowing eyes and metal hooks where its fingers should be. It was climbing the underside of the walkway, fast. I ran. The walkway twisted and turned like a maze above the fire pit. I had no clue where I was going, just away. The whole room shook as it chased me. I reached a heavy metal door at the end and slammed through it, hearing the clang of those hooked hands scrape just behind me. The new room was pitch black. I didn't even get a chance to breathe before the lights snapped on. Surgical white. I was in some kind of old break room, weirdly untouched. Tables, lockers, a microwave, even a bulletin board still full of pinned-up notes, all yellowed and curled, but there was something written in red ink across one of them. They burned the evidence, but not all of it. And below that, Locker 13. I turned. Found the lockers. Number 13 was chained shut. But something inside it was banging, soft but steady, like it had rhythm, like it was counting. And then I heard a voice, not through the room, inside my head. You want the truth? Let it out. But I didn't move. Not yet, because I heard something else, behind me, the sound of wet footsteps, getting closer. I don't know how long I stood there, just frozen, staring at that thing writhing in the heat. It looked like it was made of burnt flesh and iron, fused together like something crawled out of the incinerator and decided to stay. My legs finally moved. I turned and bolted down the catwalk, boots slamming on rusted metal, echoing so loud it made me sick. I didn't know where I was going, just that I had to put as much distance between me and that thing as humanly possible. I shot past the corner where the walls used to be plastered with safety posters, all torn now, burned around the edges. A huge dent in the wall looked like someone had slammed their head into it, over and over again, and the smear of red confirmed it wasn't just imagination. Then came the conveyor. That long metal belt we used to load with meat. It stretched through the center of the plant, the whole damn length of the floor. I almost didn't recognize it, now caked in grime and something darker. Not grease, not oil, something thicker. It wasn't running, but it was humming. Low, slow, like something alive was sleeping underneath it. I crept closer, holding my breath. Every step forward felt like a dare. Then I heard it. Help me. Nope. I stepped back. That whisper wasn't in my head. It came from under the conveyor. But my eyes, they betrayed me. They locked on the slats between the belts, and deep down in the shadows I saw movement. Something was crawling between the gears. I dropped to my knees. Don't ask me why. Morbid curiosity, maybe. I leaned in just enough to peek under the belt, and I swear to you what I saw is still burned into my brain. A face, a half-melted human face, just under the machinery, like it was fused into the steel. Its mouth opened and I saw its jaw was part of the gear itself, moving when the belt moved. I backed up fast, nearly fell over myself. The belt jerked, once, twice, then, like it had a mind of its own, it screamed to life. No one turned it on. There was no power. I know because the main breakers had all been blown, remember? But that belt, it roared. Metal groaned, chains pulled, and the gears, they started chewing. I watched the face get pulled back into the machine, eyes locked on me, mouth still trying to scream even as its teeth snapped apart with the chain. And then something new came out from under the conveyor. It wasn't crawling. It was walking, dragging a meat hook behind it. I turned and sprinted toward the back hallway, the one that led to the old locker rooms. The one place in the building I swore I'd never step into again. Not after what I saw down there that night, but it was the only way out. The sound of that hook scraping metal behind me was getting closer. It didn't run. It didn't need to. It was just following, like it knew I'd run out of places to go. I rounded the corner, nearly ate it on a patch of something slick, blood, oil, whatever, and crashed through the rusted door to the locker room. Pitch black. I slammed it shut, slid the deadbolt and leaned against it, chest heaving like I'd just run a marathon. And then I heard breathing behind me. I stumbled down the corridor, boots dragging through layers of dust and grease like I was wading through filth itself. Every breath was thick with the smell of rotting meat and mildew-soaked concrete. My head was still ringing from the fall. Couldn't tell if the pounding was from my skull or the damn machines echoing through the walls again. That hallway. It shouldn't have been there. Not like that. The floor dipped lower than it should have, like the building had sunken into itself. The flickering lights above cast warped shadows on the walls. Every few steps, the hum of the old refrigeration pipes kicked in with a high-pitched whine, almost like screaming coming from the walls. I was way past scared now. I was deep into that numb, cold space where your brain just focuses on moving. No thinking, no questioning. Just survive. Ahead of me stood a rusted row of lockers. I hadn't seen them before, not during cleanup. I never came this far back. This wing was supposed to be sealed off. The lockers lined the wall like tombstones, each one dented, scorched, or warped in some way. One stood out. Number 22. The door looked like someone had tried to force it open, or force it shut. The latch was bent, edges stained with something dark and long-dried. I didn't want to touch it, but I couldn't stop myself. I reached out and pulled. It creaked open slow, scraping metal on metal, echoing down the hallway like a scream. Inside there wasn't much, just a crumpled work shirt hanging on a rusted hook and a pair of cracked safety goggles at the bottom. But the worst part was the smell. It wasn't rot, it was sweat. Old sweat. Like someone had just left it there and never came back. A loud bang exploded behind me. I jumped and spun around. A steel door at the far end of the corridor had slammed shut. I didn't see anyone, but I heard breathing, not mine, something low, wet, strained. It was coming from the vent above me. I turned my light up and nearly dropped it. A face was pressed to the vent slats. Pale skin, sunken eyes, no lips, just blackened teeth gritting against rusted metal. I ran. Didn't care where. I bolted down the hall back toward the main plant. My boots slid on the oily floor, my lungs burning as I sprinted past rusted machines and meat hooks swinging gently, like they were stirred by breath instead of air. The emergency lights flashed red now. That was wrong. We didn't even have those active anymore. My footsteps echoed with this hellish strobe rhythm, like every flash was a countdown to something. My only way out was through the chute. The big disposal chute at the back of the kill floor, the one we were never supposed to use unless the grinders were backed up. I could already smell the grease smoke and burnt bone. I knew it led to a sealed room, but it had a side door that maybe, just maybe, would dump me near the waste dock. I climbed onto the edge of the chute, looked down into black. One breath, one push, and I dropped. The ride down wasn't a slide, it was a fall. A filthy steel pipe fall through grease, rust, and blood. My elbow cracked against a joint, my back scraped against the metal, and I landed hard, shoulder first into a pile of meat scraps and plastic bins. It knocked the wind out of me, but I was alive. The room was pitch black. Then faintly a light flickered on, not overhead, from the wall. A monitor, old CRT style, covered in dust. It lit up with static, then flickered to a grainy black and white feed. It was me, on camera, standing in that exact room, staring at the screen. The timestamp read 4:47 a.m. Behind me in the monitor I saw something move. I turned. Nothing. Back to the monitor. Movement again. Closer. just behind my shoulder. I didn't wait. I grabbed a busted mop handle from the pile and used it to pry open the side hatch. It groaned, but gave. Cold air hit me like a slap. The smell of early dawn, wet cement and diesel. I was out. I didn't stop running until the plant was a block behind me, until my lungs gave out and I collapsed in an alley behind the old diner. Cried, maybe. Laughed. I don't remember. My hands wouldn't stop shaking. I looked back once. The slaughterhouse was dark, still, silent. And then for just a second I thought I saw something at the top window, watching. I was sprawled out in that filthy alley behind the old diner, chest heaving like I'd just run a marathon. The city smelled like rain mixed with burnt rubber and trash. Normal, right? But my mind wasn't normal. I kept seeing that window, the one at the top of the slaughterhouse. The shape in it, like someone watching, waiting. I tried to tell myself I was safe now. That place was behind me. But every time I closed my eyes I felt it. Cold, heavy, like the darkness had followed me out. My phone buzzed. I didn't even check it. The screen was cracked, the battery was low, and honestly, I didn't want to talk to anyone. Didn't want anyone knowing what I'd seen. I tried to stand, but my legs were jelly. My hands were shaking so bad I could barely light a cigarette. Then, out of nowhere, a sharp snap echoed from the alley's shadows. My heart slammed into my ribs. I spun around, nothing but trash cans swaying in the wind. I took a step back, then another. The streetlights flickered, and just like that the feeling hit me again, like cold fingers wrapping around my spine. I wasn't alone. I started moving, fast. No plan, no direction, just away. But every corner I turned, every street I crossed, I could feel it. That presence. It wasn't a ghost, not some shadowy thing. It was something else, something real, something waiting for me to slip up. That night the city wasn't quiet. It was watching, waiting, and I knew this wasn't over. Not by a long shot. I didn't stop running. Every step felt like I was dragging chains. Heavy, slow, like the ground itself was trying to pull me back. That shadow from the alley wasn't gone. It was close. Too close. I could hear it breathing. Not human. Deep, wet, like something crawling out from the darkest corners of the earth. I ducked behind a dumpster, chest pounding so hard I thought it might burst. My hands were shaking so bad I almost dropped my lighter. The tiny flame flickered in the wind. Then I saw it. A figure, tall, broad shoulders, but all twisted like it was broken and put back wrong. Its face was hidden in shadows, but I saw its eyes. Not eyes like a person, more like burning coals, red and unblinking. It stepped forward, slow and deliberate. I could smell it, like rust, sweat, and something rotten. I wanted to scream, wanted to run, but my legs refused. I remembered the butcher's knife I grabbed earlier, cold, heavy in my hand. It was now or never. I stepped out. The figure stopped. We stared at each other. I swung the knife. It dodged like it knew what I was going to do. It lunged. I dodged back, heart racing. We circled, two predators in the night. Then it charged. I stabbed. It screamed, a horrible, guttural sound that echoed off the walls. It staggered back, then vanished, like smoke. I was alone. For the first time in hours I breathed, but I knew. This was the end of the shift, the end of the nightmare, the end. I stayed frozen for a long minute, hands still gripping the knife tight enough to crush it. The alley was silent again, like nothing had happened. No shadows, no whispers, just cold night air settling on my skin. I didn't know if that thing was real or some twisted figment of my brain about to snap. But the weight on my chest finally started to lift. The crushing fear that had buried me for hours, maybe days, began to ease. I forced myself to stand taller, shaky legs and all. The city was waking up slowly around me, distant sirens, a few cars humming on wet streets, the first birds starting their morning songs. I looked back once more at the slaughterhouse. Dark, empty, lifeless. The kind of place where even the bravest don't step foot after dark. But I knew the truth now. That place wasn't just a building, it was a trap. A tomb for anyone unlucky enough to get caught inside its walls. I pulled out my phone, turned it on. Signal was weak, but enough to send a message, a warning, to anyone who might ever think about taking the final shift at Cold Creek. I didn't know what I'd do next. Maybe report it, maybe just disappear. But one thing was clear, I wasn't going back. Not ever. The nightmare was over, for me. Days passed, but I couldn't shake the weight of that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw those burning red eyes and felt that cold grip around my throat. But no more running. I went to the police, told them everything. The locked doors, the strange sounds, the shadowy figure. They sent officers to investigate. The place was sealed off for good. Turns out, Cold Creek Slaughterhouse had a dark history. Accidents, missing workers, brutal shutdown decades ago. But nothing official about anything supernatural. Just bad conditions, neglected safety, and human neglect. The monster I fought? Probably a security guard or someone desperate, hiding in the shadows. Maybe even a worker gone off the rails. The police found some old equipment, bloodstains, and signs someone had been living there. No ghosts, no mysteries, just the harsh truth. I finally felt free. The nightmare was real, but the end was clear. I'm done with Cold Creek, done with the final shift.